Congratulations on the bookstore.
Thank you.
How far out from opening are we?
I'm waiting on the town of Mount Pleasant. I can have this hopefully turned over in a week. So as soon as they give me the go ahead, I would really love to open the doors. I am hoping for an end of March, first week of April opening, but we'll see. It's really dependent on the permits and the business license, etc.
How did you get to this point where you're opening a bookstore?
I feel like it's been so long in the making. When I was a little girl, I'd always dreamed of owning a bookstore. Reading has always been my passion, my therapy, what I turn to, um, my friends. So I grew up reading, kind of took a break in college, even though, turned to Twilight, etc., like everyone else. I started a job in financial technology as the director of operations, really just going through the tasks of the day, but not really feeling anything for what I was doing. And the dream of the bookstore kept coming back in my head. And it was just poking every day and every day, saying you want it to be fulfilled, do something that you want. And it took me a little while to voice that because I knew once I voiced what I wanted to do, I had to either do it or forget it forever. And then it was this past November that I was like, this is what I want to do. And from there, this is how the bookstore is opening.
That's pretty quick. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of us have had this dream of owning a bookstore.
Yeah.
And I'm a little envious seeing all the books ready to be shelved behind you in your new bookstore called The Archive.
Yeah.
What
Yes.
was it like saying, okay, I'm going to do this? I'm assuming there's some fear. I've talked to other bookstore owners on the podcast, and they talk about how the profit margin for books is very small, especially when it comes to having books from independent authors. So, how are you preparing to monetize this bookstore outside of selling books?
Yeah, so I think that's part of the reason why I never really kind of went with this dream when I was little. Everyone's like, owning a bookstore is not profitable, it doesn't work. But I think right now there is such a return to the bookstore and return to going somewhere, sitting where you can enjoy. I mean, I live in Mount Pleasant in South Carolina in Charleston, and every Starbucks within like a 20-mile radius has redone their stores to make it more inviting. They want people to sit. I think that people just want a place where they can go find a community. But that being said, obviously it has to be profitable. And as you said, the margins are not great. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to do, we all say like, oh, I want to own a bookstore. I want to with a flower shop and wine and coffee. And I was like, what, how do I make this work? And hopefully the margins of the coffee, of the wine, of the other merchandise will offset the books. There still has to be that demand, there still has to be interest. And I'm so grateful that there is such support in this community, in the book community. I would love to also hold events, book signings, art classes, really anything that's community oriented in the space. Because like you said, bookstores are not typically profitable because you can only sell the books for what the publishers tell you can sell the books for. And I don't know if everybody understands that unless you have experience in bookstores. We do not set the price of them. It is the publishers that set the price. So there's really no room for us to change anything.
And how did you learn all of this?
Trial and error. Yeah, I come from an operations background. So really, when I knew I wanted to do this, once I said it out loud, the first thing I did was created a business plan. And it wasn't really for anyone else except myself, to really detail out what it is that I have to do in order to get this operational and successful. So in that business plan, I put everything from what I would need to get up and running, the books, everything from the books, the merchandise you see on the shelves, but the things that you see in the background, the shelving units, the speakers that hold our music, the cups for coffee, the lids, the straws, the sugar packets, everything. It was maybe a 30-page document really for myself, but that is how I work. Really, and every publishing house is different too. The margins that you're going to get, the reps that you're going to work with. It's really, you can look up how to run a bookstore, but it is all unique in your experience, especially since I'm doing a little bit something different. It's a dark academia bookstore. So while I will carry a little bit of the majority of genres, it really is a fiction bookstore. That's what I was looking for, those specific books.
One thing that I have noticed in bookstores, and it's
Mhm.
like, I feel like people like you and me, we just want to go to a bookstore and hang out all day. You are totally making yours a vibe. We've seen, like the pink ones with the big pink fluffy
Mhm.
couches and all of that. Yours
Yeah.
is different. Like you mentioned, dark academia. Tell me about the vibe and why you were going with this theme.
Yeah. So, and I think that's also part of the reason why in November I decided to give voice to my dreams. I was seeing this resurgence of the bookstore, especially the romance bookstores, which is fantastic. I love it. I love the bubblegum pink. There's, all these different romance styles. But I really saw that there was a hole for other niche bookstores. And I'm hoping that's because just nobody has done it yet, not because it wasn't wanted. So I have always turned to kind of like the darker fantasy books or darker fiction where it talks about mental health, education, etc. And that's just the vibe that I love. I did not expect when I created this bookstore and launched it on Instagram the outpouring of support for it. So I am so happy that there are so many other like-minded individuals who are looking for this. But yeah, it's definitely a vibe. Green is my favorite color. This whole store is green, the walls, the ceilings, everything. I just want it to be completely saturated. But I think that when it comes to dark academia, some people who don't know what the genre is think it's basically this gothic murder type dark books. And some of them are, but it's also just this intellectual curiosity and that deep love for hidden knowledge and basically the warmth of a well-known book. It doesn't have to be all of these dark connotations because it is dark academia. So I did really want this space to reflect an old library that you would find in a castle so that when you walk in the doors, even if it's in sunny Charleston, you come in and you just feel like you're transported somewhere else.
Well, you have totally nailed it. It looks amazing.
Thank
I
you.
love the little tour that you gave me before we got started. I want to go back to you
Yeah.
learning what the hell to do. Like you said, there's a lot of trial and error. And I've talked to other bookstore owners
Mhm.
who say, oh, I took this course for bookshop owners. Or I talked to a lot of people who already had bookstores near me, but not close enough to me that they would be considered competition. So, where else besides, or did all you do was Google and consume everything you could?
Like you said, a lot of Googling. That was, I mean, everything is kind of out there at your fingertips in terms of finding information. Again, it is unique to everyone, but that's basically where I started, researching articles, bookstores 101. Some of the information is so helpful. Some of that you're like, okay, I'll just put this in the back burner. A lot of it, I looked on the ABA websites, I was looking at the publisher websites. They all offer little resources, but again, it is all trial and error, and I am still learning. Sometimes I'm getting books and I'm like, oof, why did I order that? Because you're in the thick of things and you're just like, I think this seems good at the time, and then you get it and you're just like, oh, maybe this wasn't the best decision. And even when the store opens, I'm still going to be learning. I have a little old mailbox that I got for like a little suggestion box that I'm going to put by the front door because again, this is my intro to owning a bookstore. But everything in terms of operations was Googling everything from moisture absorbers, kind of Googling what are the little known things that I need to know as a bookseller. And it's really just deep diving on the internet. I'm the type of person that analysis paralysis. I just analyze and analyze and analyze, and sometimes it's too much. And I have to stop myself and be like, just do it. So I think the hardest part for me has been selecting the books. And I thought that was going to be the best part of owning a bookstore. And I see all these interviews with other bookstores and they're like, oh, I love selecting books. This is the most fun chatting with the reps. And it is fun chatting with the reps, but it's also extremely stressful because what resonates with you might not resonate with everyone else. I feel like reading a book is kind of like eating food, like our taste buds are all different. And we might like similar categories of food, but it tastes different to us. So for me, that has been the hardest part. And there's no instruction manual on selecting books. But basically what I have done is gone through all of the backlists, kind of tried to find what was the dark academia, and then filled in the other spaces. I'm going heavy on the banned books, just because I do think it is important for indie booksellers to carry those stories, especially with all of the book bans now. After the dark academia, I'm kind of going towards all different fictions, the fantasies, the historical fictions, the thrillers, the murders. We've got some smut in there, just really anything fiction. Talking to my reps, looking through the frontlist categories, but with every frontlist catalog I get, I am researching the books on Goodreads. I'm looking at them on the indie bookstores. I'm looking at them on ABA. It's a lot of work goes into selecting the books. It's not just checking the boxes. And that is not what I expected.
Finding good help is also a struggle. And with your situation, you can't just hire anybody. You got to hire people who are close by. This isn't a remote business, obviously.
Yeah, so I actually have enjoyed that process. I come from a corporate background where I've have experience with hiring, but it's completely different. It's a small space, so I don't really intend on having any more than 2 individuals working at a time, aside from the opening week, and that probably will include myself. But I do want to have a handful of really passionate individuals who will be there to support the store. So when I was looking for individuals, it's not necessarily that someone has the most experience in retail or in being a barista or serving wine. It's more their passion for literature, conversation, inclusivity, and their ability to learn. You could come in and have been a barista for 20 years, but if you don't like to read, or if maybe this isn't your niche and you don't feel like this is a vibe for you, then it's probably not going to work at the archive. I really think that passion and the ability to learn outweighs experience in terms of this. So I did just go through the hiring process, and I did just extend offers to 6 individuals for part-time help, and I'm really excited that they all accepted. So I'm hoping to start the training in about a week or 2.
So fun. And then how do you learn how to train them with this? Is this just a mixture of the Googling, your experience, and just what you want them to exude when they're on the job?
Yeah, so when I was looking for a coffee distributor, I knew I wanted to be local. And so there's so many amazing local coffee distributors here. And the one I chose, Counterculture, they just really offered an all-inclusive package where they would help provide the training in terms of the coffee service. So that was really important to me because I don't have a food and beverage background. So I can do the operational stuff. I can create the handbooks, the operational procedures, but in terms of training baristas, I can't do that. In fact, I need the training. I'm probably going to be the worst one. I'm really grateful that they're going to help with that. I am working with an amazing sommelier also, who's helping me curate the wine menu, who's also going to create booklets for us. So I'm trying to just provide resources. In choosing the different machines, I really wanted to make sure everything was fully automated to reduce user error and make sure that the process goes faster. And that's where my operations background comes in. So I might not have any experience in food and bev, but I do have experience with people.
Tell me about picking the location, because with the brick and mortar and with the bookstore, location is everything. And you said you're in Mount Pleasant, which is near Charleston. Like, it's kind of a vacation destination, right?
Yeah, it's a vacation destination, it's a wedding destination, it's a spring break destination, but it's also just an amazing place to live. Mount Pleasant, you can be 2 minutes from downtown, like right over the bridge, or you can be 30 minutes from downtown. I live a little bit north, so I live about 20 minutes over the bridge from downtown. This is about 5 minutes off the bridge. So if anyone is traveling downtown, it's really easy to get here. So I started this process thinking about it, putting my business plan together in November. And in December, I was eating dinner at a restaurant, which is actually right next door to here. It's called Kramer's Kitchen. The owner, Owen, came up to us and was like, hey, just talking, catching up. The place next door is about to go up for lease, and I'm so upset because I would have moved there. It's bigger. I love it. I wish that I could have moved there. And he's telling us all this, and my husband and I just looked at each other, and it was like, can I see it? And he's like, and Owen next door was Like, I'll put you in touch with the landlord. And the next day I saw it and I was like, this is perfect. This actually was a children's hair salon, and this whole wall was a rainbow wall, pinks and blues and oranges and greens. So it looks nothing like it did, but it was one of those meant to be situations. But I kind of did things a little bit backwards because I found the space before I built the company. So that's why I'm doing things so quickly, because we saw it in December. I signed the lease for January and I was like, okay, I have this rent now, so I have to get going. I have to have this space open. It's in a little shopping center called Shelmore Shops, 5 minutes from downtown. It's the perfect location.
That sounds so familiar. In episode 4, we speak with Jenny from Bookish Boutique in Panama City, Florida. And she has a similar situation where it was just like the landlord didn't even have the place listed. And
Mhm.
she saw it, she signed the lease, and like you said, time is money. She ended up opening up her store in 25 days.
I'm waiting right now just for the review process. Now, they say the review process can be anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks.
Ugh.
I don't know how long that's going to be. I do have like I'm speaking with them every day. It's just really trying to push. Like, there's so much new construction here. There's so much going on in Mount Pleasant. I do understand that they're probably backed up. But you're a small business. Every day counts in terms of dollars. You're kind of just sitting here. I'm sitting on inventory. People are wondering when I'm opening. I want to open. I want to get this going. I do understand that. So I'm waiting for permits. And then once I get that, they can come in and inspect the building or the space. Once they inspect it, they can either say, this looks great, go ahead, or they can have changes that I need to fix. I'm hoping that everything is okay. We've done everything that, we are supposed to do. It's just a waiting game.
These are a lot of expenses that I think people don't put into mind. They just think of paying the rent for the space and paying the employees and paying for the books. They don't think of all these extra things. Is there anything that surprised you when you started this and spending so much money before you're making money?
It's definitely a lot. It's definitely a lot, which is what makes the waiting so hard. Just because, starting a new business, it's stressful, and the amount of money, amount of time and energy and dreams and passion you put into it, but then the amount of money. So every day that we are not open, it's more money that I am losing. And I think that it's probably hard to grasp from an outside perspective, like from the town, like the towns. And it's not just the town of Mount Pleasant, it's everywhere. When people are trying to do their job, but I don't know if they're thinking of it as, oh, someone's small business is losing money if I don't get this finished today. And that's no one's fault. It's just they're not in that situation. Yeah, the costs are, the cost of chairs, the cost of the glasses, the cost of the plates, the book stands, it's everything, and it adds up very quickly.
What's been your biggest learning experience or something that you would tell other people who also have a dream of opening a bookstore or just starting a bookish business?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting since I started the Instagram account. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, you're so successful. Like, how did you do it? And I want to first say, like, I am so glad that people view it as successful, but I haven't made $1 yet. So, it's funny to separate, the amount of followers from the success of a business. So to me, like, that's how I think. And I'm so grateful for the support and the community, but I don't know if I am the voice of reason behind that, because I still haven't opened my doors. I haven't made one sale. But what I tell individuals is, who want to do this, is to put everything down, write it out, make sure you know every single thing that you need to do so there are no surprises. Talk to your town to find out what the process is and how long it's going to take. And don't wait, because it's always going to take longer. If someone was starting here, I would say the first thing you do is figure out what licenses you're going to need and what permits you're going to need, because that is going to take the longest. Start there and then work backwards.
What are you currently reading, and what is the last best book you read?
Oh, okay. The irony is not lost on me that since I started this company in November, I have only read 2 books. And this is someone who reads like 50 to 70 books a year. I have, from November to March, I've read 2 books. And the only 2 books I've read this year are Onyx Storm, and I got an advanced reading copy of The Night and the Moth, which I loved, and I'm so excited for that to come out. I really, really loved the Atlas 6 trilogy. I thought it was great.
I have not ever really been into romantasy. I did Twilight, I did Harry Potter, and I did the Hunger Games. And I was like, I like those. And they're like, then read ACOTAR. You got to read the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. So I'm like, fine. And now I'm on the last book. And I do enjoy it. They are long,
Yeah,
but I did enjoy it. So people are saying, well, if you like that, then you need to read the Fourth Wing series.
I love Rebecca Yarros. I think she's amazing. I think her marketing team is phenomenal. Um, A Court of Thorns and Roses, I love, but I will say for Sarah Maas, Throne of Glass series trumps all of them for me.
Really? Okay.
Love, I mean, I read them so long ago, and I just feel like Throne of Glass, Selena Sardothian, Aelin, those are some powerful characters. But I also am a Nesta fan in terms of A Court of Thorns and Roses. So there's different perspectives.
Because those
Yeah,
are long books. Like, I don't want to be reading these long ass books if I'm not going
yeah.
to like them.
My favorite book of all time is The Night Circus. It's just so beautifully written. I haven't read it in years, but I still recommend this book to
Okay.
everyone. It takes place in the world we live in. So it's not super, super fantastical, and it's about a circus that comes at night. It shows up, and there's magical elements to it, but it's not so far-fetched. And it's just beautifully written. It jumps back and forth to different perspectives and to different times. So you do have to focus a little bit more than you would in like in A Court of Thorns and Roses or an Onyx Storm. But it is so, so, so beautifully written.
Okay. Added to my list. Amanda, is there anything else you want to add that I should have asked?
I'm so happy to finally be doing what I love to do. There are days where I come to my store and I cannot believe that I'm saying this is my store. But then there are also days that I'm like, what the F am I doing? It's a lot, but I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for the support of, the bookish community. I could have never imagined all of this. And I'm just grateful that you wanted to have this conversation with me.